Hi, I'm Laurie Timble, and I'm inviting all of you to come down to the March Against Monsanto, May the 24th at the Parkinson Rec Center.
On Friday, communities started the 3-month wave of action for change, ending on July 4th, Independence Day. Friday was the anniversary of Martin Luther King's assassination. The wave of action joins the biggest youth civil disobedience in a generation. Hundreds of rallies across the state started symbolic oil spills, including outside the house of John Kerry, whose State Department approved the Keystone XL project, and the White House, where several hundred peaceful protesters have been arrested, asking Obama not to break another 2008 promise.
Hi there, I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
It's good to be with you today because we're talking about people in action making a difference.
There's a global wave of action occurring around the globe where people are standing up for their rights and showing the powers that shouldn't be what should be.
And it started a couple of weeks ago. It's going through to July the 4th, Independence Day in the States, the land of the free, home of the imprisoned.
That would be the word for it.
Yeah, I know, home of the brave. I always wonder about where they got that from.
Here in our home province of British Columbia, and actually our home country of Canada, the federal government, in their wisdom, has decided to discontinue the Federal Health Accord to our medical services.
And of course, while they privatize health care, give all kinds of excuses to spend money on weapons and prisons that we don't need, while axing things like social services, there are people rising up to say no.
Fortunately, a few concerned citizens here in the Valley decided to show up at our representative's office and voice their displeasure at this behavior.
Check this out.
I believe access to quality health care.
I believe access to quality health care
Must be based on need.
Must be based on need.
Not ability to pay.
They came with their flags, their songs.
Cause Medicare is facing a crunch.
And their fight to ensure the future of the healthcare system. As the current health accord expires, protests were held outside MPs' offices in 42 cities across the country, aimed at the federal government who, according to the BC Health Coalition, is refusing to renegotiate the accord.
The latest is not to renew the health accord, to have a temporary three-year transfer payments that will leave British Columbia $255 million short from April 1st, 2014 to March 31st, 2015. British Columbia will receive $255 million less in transfer payments.
A number that doesn't sit right with many here in the Okanagan, as over 100 people turned up to the rally at MP Ron Cannon's office to sign petitions and hope for their voices to be heard.
They're trying to opt out of over $35 billion that taxpayers are entitled to access through their Medicare program. Federal government's abdicated its responsibilities in many portfolios, but particularly in public Medicare. They want to download it onto the provinces, and the provinces want to download it onto the citizens.
However, despite marching to his office door, MP Ron Cannon was not even in town, but did issue a statement.
We are committed to a publicly funded, universal, accessible healthcare system. And we all use the healthcare system. We want it to be strong.
Which went on to say in 2011, the government announced that the total health transfer dollars would keep growing at 6% until 2016, and after that would grow in line with a 3-year moving average of nominal GDP, with funding guaranteed to be increased by at least 3% a year. Jen Zielinski in Kelowna for Castanet News.
So you were there?
I was there, actually. I'm in that clip.
Yeah, he's in the clip. He was like talking coherently and everything. Of course, make sure you email Robert Nisbet as much as possible since he has so much time while he's not producing this show. Well, I want you to get informed about what's happening in healthcare right now, the way that the Conservatives are trying to privatize. And of course, that means if you've got money and you suck up to bankers, you get healthcare. Seems fair.
Another huge concern for people around the world is the environment, and especially air quality. And they're having a bit of a problem with that in the country of China.
If you take a look at Tiananmen Square, right in China, they've erected a huge LED screen in order to show people what the sunsets and sunrises used to look like. That's how bad the air quality is there.
In a smaller province of China, I think the city is called Mingmao, they had a little protest about a chemical plant that's going in there that will, benefit the economy.
Yes. So remember, while you substitute the word bank profits for economy, watch this clip from the Chinese.
At night on the streets of Maoming, a tense standoff has continued between riot police and opponents of a new chemical plant. During the day, the numbers are smaller, but they are no less passionate.
If they want to go ahead with this project, there is nothing we can do about it except keep protesting. We can only keep trying.
This was the violence that began on the same streets a week earlier, with images quickly spreading on the internet and just as quickly being deleted by the authorities. The local government has been using social media itself to promote the paraxylene or PX plant making chemicals for plastics and synthetic fiber. It's not that toxic, this video explains, and will bring economic benefits. And its construction on this site, it's said, will create 10,000 jobs. Here, as in other cities in China, there's a growing awareness about the environmental impact of economic progress and an increasing willingness among the people to take their opposition to it onto the streets. In recent years, there have been a number of large-scale protests against industrial projects. In a society where social stability is important, the actions have often resulted in the authorities backing down. Officials in Maoming have promised not to go ahead with the plant if most people object. As the protest poster opposite the new site declares, we are told it's good for us, but it's the people who will suffer. Rob McBride, Al Jazeera, Maoming.
So when you see, people in China standing up, that's called, wow, pay attention, because they're not even allowed to protest over there.
No, they have pretty strict rules. I think they call all civil unrest terrorism.
Yes, all civil unrest. You can actually hang a Chinese flag outside of your residence in protest. That's changing, though, substantially. We've seen changes in the law in China. We've also seen changes in the law in Japan to allow more protests over there, because they have to do it. People are just rising up and saying, well, forget that. Sort of like Quebec when they told Quebec not to protest. Ha! That worked out really well, didn't it?
And there is a prominent Chinese businessman who has got a unique way of showing his displeasure at the air quality in China.
If you've seen the Lorax, well, you just got to check this out.
It looks like this crowd in Beijing is popping open cans of soda. But look carefully. These cans are actually filled with nothing but air, fresh air. Currently, it's a prized commodity in Beijing. And this is the latest venture from Chen Gongbiao, one of China's richest men.
I'm selling this clean air to remind everyone to protect our environment. If we don't, in 10 years, our descendants will all be wearing gas masks.
Chen gave away hundreds of cans of what he says is clean air, each bearing his picture on the smoggy streets of Beijing Wednesday. The Chinese capital is choking with pollution, recording its worst ever air quality this month. And these Beijing residents appeared won over by Chen's message.
When I first saw it, I thought it was a drink. I wouldn't have imagined it was fresh air. It's really great. It reminds people to use less fuel and do what they can for Beijing's air.
I think that no matter whether it's a gimmick or just Mr. Chen making another social statement, I think it's very relevant right now. If the air keeps getting worse, then he will have a huge market.
Chen is a well-known multimillionaire, entrepreneur, and philanthropist with a flair for publicity. Critics call his attempt to sell clean air a brazen stunt. But Chen disagrees, comparing his canned air to bottled water.
Nothing I do is for fame or for personal benefit. I just want to use the years I have left in my life to tell more people to protect the environment, to be good, have good hearts, and do good deeds.
Chen says he's been collecting clean air from far-flung regions across China since last year and plans to offer several flavors, like pristine Tibet. He's now selling his cans for about 80 cents a pop. Suzanne Malveaux, CNN.
For this clip, I was thinking about memorizing that. If nobody does anything, nothing will happen. It's that great line from Dr. Seuss. What is it?
I can't remember it right now.
We'll fumble around on that one later because it's so entertaining. At any rate, I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
You're tuned in to Video Radio. We're going to be talking about the way Kitimat is standing against pipelines and, of course, being ignored by our premier. And
we'd like to thank the following sponsors.
We'll be back right after this.
The genetically modified organism, as that term as it's currently used, really refers to organisms created through genetic engineering. And most often it means introducing genes that are not within the species pool. The bacteria shoots genes into the plant. The plant grows a big tumor that makes this really weird compound that only Agrobacterium can eat. And so Agrobacterium sets up its own little food factory. So this natural disease is really the basis for a lot of genetic engineering we do today. People figured out that this process happened. They learned how to take the disease-causing genes out of the transferred DNA and learned how to replace them with genes of interest.
The attack on scientists is very well structured by the biotech industry. It's systematic, it's worldwide, it's very coordinated. It's part of the way that they do business.
What's, I think, very unique in my case is that I survived.
One of the reasons why we are lining up now is, of course, to protect ourselves against the attacks which will continue to come, of course, because we are obviously threatening to the markets of the producers of genetically modified organisms and other genetically engineered products.
Our discovery that we were finding transgenic corn maybe 1,000 miles from the nearest legal transgenic corn field was a huge problem for them, because it really showed very simply and with real evidence that they really did not have control.
No one gets up in the morning saying, I want to go buy a genetically engineered food. They offer no benefits, no more nutrition, no more flavor, no nothing. They only offer risks.
His brilliant design showed that it wasn't the insecticide that caused the problems. It was somehow the process of creating the genetically engineered potato.
They asked me, would you eat it? I said, no, certainly not the GM potatoes we worked on. If I could avoid it, I would certainly avoid it.
The next morning, Arpad Pusztai was fired after 35 years and silenced with threats of a lawsuit.
They did not want people to have that knowledge and not want them to have that choice. So this isn't just a story about science. It's a story about knowledge, democracy, and freedom of choice.
They should not use our fellow citizens as human guinea pigs.
Virtually every food that you consume, including you in Germany, has some genetically modified product in it, okay, whether it's soybeans or corn.
So remember that the animal that has been fed on GM has been changed. Now, when you are eating that animal fed on GM, you will be eating a different animal.